Hello. There's a certain kind of horror movie monster that doesn't need claws, fangs, or a scary mask. It just needs to look like someone you know, a co-worker, a partner, a friend. They say the right words, they wear the same face, they go through the same routines, but something is missing. Something behind the eyes has gone. That's the terror of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, especially Philip Kaufman's 1978 version, one of the great paranoid horror films. But there's another movie that takes that same fear and brings it down to an almost painfully intimate scale. It's a tiny, tense, deeply empathetic indie horror movie called They Look Like People. And if you like the specific dread of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the fear that ordinary people may not really be people anymore, then They Look Like People is absolutely worth seeking out, because it takes the same nightmare and asks, what if the invasion isn't happening to the whole world? What if it's happening to one person's perception of the world? They Look Like People is a movie about paranoia, but it's also about friendship. It's about mental health, loneliness, masculine vulnerability, and the terrifying experience of not knowing whether you can trust your own mind. While Invasion of the Body Snatchers turns distrust into a citywide alien apocalypse, They Look Like People turns it into something quieter. Two old friends in an apartment trying to figure out whether one of them is seeing the truth or falling apart. Spoilers for Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but no major spoilers for They Look Like People. The connection between these two movies starts with a simple fear. What if people are no longer what they appear to be? In Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that fear becomes literal. Alien pods arrive on Earth and begin producing perfect duplicates of human beings. These duplicates look exactly like the people they replace, but they lack emotion. They are calm, efficient, and horrifyingly empty. We follow Matthew, played by Donald Sutherland, as he slowly realizes that San Francisco is being overtaken. At first, the changes are subtle. Someone's husband seems different. Someone's friend seems off. People still look familiar, but their behavior has shifted just enough to make ordinary life feel alien. And the pod people keep the surface and remove the soul. Now compare that to They Look Like People. The title alone sounds like something a survivor in Body Snatchers might whisper. And it creates a gap between appearance and reality. It suggests that the human face has become unreliable. That's exactly the space where both movies live, but in Body Snatchers, the replacement is real. The conspiracy exists. The paranoid reading of reality is correct. In They Look Like People, the question isn't so simple. The film doesn't immediately tell us whether Wyatt, the main character, is perceiving a real hidden threat, or whether his mind is transforming ordinary people into monsters. But either way, something terrible is happening. And one of the biggest differences between the two films is scale. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a public apocalypse. It's about a city, maybe a world, being replaced person by person. The paranoia expands outwards from relationships to workplaces to streets to institutions until society itself feels absorbed into an emotionless collective. The 1978 version uses San Francisco perfectly for this. It turns a real, busy, recognizable city into a maze of suspicion. Crowds become threatening, offices become threatening, streets become threatening. The threat is everywhere because society itself is becoming the monster. They Look Like People takes the same kind of fear and compresses it. Instead of a citywide takeover, we get a handful of characters. Instead of big public spaces, we get apartments, phone calls, quiet conversations, late night anxiety. Instead of showing paranoia as a mass social contagion, the film shows it as an intimate emotional crisis. That smaller scale doesn't make the movie less scary. In many ways, it makes the terror more personal. Because the terror isn't abstract. It isn't humanity is doomed. It's, can this person make it through the night? It's, can this friendship survive the pressure of fear? It's, what do you do when someone you love may be dangerous, but also desperately in need of help? That intimacy is what makes They Look Like People so special. It takes a classic science fiction horror premise and turns it into a story about care. And care matters here because both films are fundamentally about trust. In Invasion of the Body Snatchers, trust collapses because anyone could already be a duplicate. The people closest to you become the most terrifying because intimacy gives the imposter more power. In that world, paranoia becomes rational. Suspicion is survival. That's one of the clever things about Body Snatchers. In ordinary life, paranoia isolates you from reality. In this movie, paranoia is the only way to understand reality correctly. But They Look Like People complicates that. Wyatt believes there is a hidden threat. He believes people around him may not be what they seem. But the film doesn't give the viewer the same certainty that Body Snatchers gives us. We don't know exactly how to interpret his fear. So trust becomes a much more delicate problem. Can Christian trust Wyatt? Can Wyatt trust Christian? Can Wyatt trust himself? Can we, the audience, trust what the film is showing us? That question is really important. They Look Like People doesn't just depict paranoia, it makes us feel paranoia. It places us in a state where interpretation becomes uncertain. A glance might mean nothing, or it might mean everything. A sound might be ordinary, or it might be a warning. A conversation might be compassionate, or it might be a trap. And once you start seeing people as possible monsters, every interaction becomes a test. Every expression becomes evidence. Every act of kindness could be manipulation. Even love and trust start to look threatening. One of the most disturbing ideas in Invasion of the Body Snatchers is that the pod people offer a kind of peace. When the pod people explain themselves, they present the loss of emotion almost like a gift. Life will be easier without pain, without fear or grief, without messy attachment or individual suffering. From their point of view, humanity's emotional life is a problem to be solved. That's why the pod people are so disturbing. They don't just kill humans, they erase the very thing that make human life human. Now, They Look Like People is interested in that same question of what makes someone human. But again, it approaches it from the inside rather than the outside. Wyatt's fear is that other people might be monsters, their humanity just a mask. But the film also pays close attention to the opposite possibility, that paranoia itself can make it harder to perceive someone else's humanity. If fear becomes strong enough, it can flatten other people into threats. It can turn friends into suspects, strangers into enemies, and ordinary gestures into signs of hidden malice. And that's a very different kind of horror from Body Snatchers. In Body Snatchers, people lose their humanity because aliens take it from them. In They Look Like People, the fear is that someone's ability to recognize humanity may be breaking down. The danger isn't that Wyatt has no humanity, it's that fear may cut him off from the humanity of everyone around him. And that's heartbreaking because the movie isn't cold towards Wyatt. It doesn't treat him like a puzzle or a freak show. It treats him with compassion. His fear is frightening, but it's also painful. He isn't simply a threat to others. He is somebody experiencing terror from within. This is where They Look Like People branches away from Invasion of the Body Snatchers in a really important way. At its center, They Look Like People is a movie about male friendship. Wyatt reconnects with Christian, an old friend dealing with his own insecurities and loneliness. Christian is trying to become more confident, more successful, more desirable. He's trying to build a better version of himself. Then Wyatt enters his life carrying this enormous private fear, and the movie becomes a study of two men who are both struggling, but in opposite directions. One is trying very hard to make it look like he has everything under control, while the other is visibly unraveling. That matters because a lot of paranoia horror focuses on suspicion, but They Look Like People also focuses on tenderness. Christian's response to Wyatt is concern, awkward loyalty, not just fear. It's the desire to help, even when he doesn't fully understand what's happening. In Body Snatchers, the emotional bonds between people are gradually destroyed by the invasion. Love becomes a vulnerability. Trust becomes a trap. In They Look Like People, love and trust are threatened by paranoia, but they're also the things that might resist it. That gives the film a very different emotional shape. Yes, on one level it's asking, are people secretly monsters? But it's also asking, what does care look like when someone's fear makes care difficult? How do you stay close to someone whose reality no longer matches yours? Those are complicated questions. And the film doesn't reduce them to easy answers. It lets the friendship be messy, funny, uncomfortable, and genuinely moving. And that kind of brings us to the most important structural difference between these two films: certainty and ambiguity. Invasion of the Body Snatchers begins with uncertainty but moves towards confirmation. By the end, we know the invasion is real. We know the pods are real. We know the duplicates are real. And the final horror is that the takeover has basically succeeded. The paranoid worldview is vindicated. That's part of why the ending is so devastating. Matthew's scream tells us there is no hidden escape, no last human alliance, not even any comforting ambiguity. The nightmare is real, and it has won. They Look Like People works differently. It understands how powerful ambiguity. It understands how powerful uncertainty can be when the story resists being reduced too quickly to either monster movie or mental illness drama. The film keeps you watching faces, listening to sounds, scanning environments for signs of something wrong. For much of the film, certainty stays out of reach. The movie wants you to sit inside that paranoid uncertainty. Maybe Wyatt is right. Maybe there really is something out there. Maybe the title is a warning. Or maybe this is a person in crisis. Maybe the real horror isn't invasion, but isolation. Maybe what we're watching is the desperate need for connection at the exact moment that connection becomes almost impossible. And the movie is smart enough to make both possibilities feel emotionally real. That's why it lingers. So, if you love Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I think They Look Like People is worth watching because it feels like a psychological echo of that same nightmare. It has the same core fear. People may not be people, but it changes the location of the horror. Body Snatchers finds horror in society, institutions, crowds, relationships, urban life. The terrifying possibility that conformity has replaced humanity. They Look Like People finds horror in perception, the mind, the senses, the difficulty in trusting what you see, and the pain of needing other people while simultaneously being afraid that they may be dangerous. It is smaller, it is quieter, it's less iconic, it doesn't have Donald Sutherland pointing and screaming in one of the greatest and bleakest endings in movie history, but it has a rare gentleness. For all its dread, They Look Like People is a compassionate horror movie. It's scary because Wyatt's fear is scary, but it's moving because the film never forgets that that fear belongs to a person. They Look Like People is Invasion of the Body Snatchers stripped of the crowds, the pods and the citywide apocalypse, and then rebuilt as an intimate psychological horror film about paranoia, mental illness and friendship. It takes the classic pod person fear. They look human, but they aren't, and turns it inward. And in doing so, it creates a horror movie that's not just about whether other people are secretly monsters. It's about the terror of losing the ability to tell. If that sounds compelling, watch They Look Like People. Go in knowing as little as possible. And afterwards, maybe call a friend. Enjoy the movie.